Welcome back to the Triathlon Nutrition Academy podcast. I'm your host, Taryn Richardson, advanced sports dietitian and semi-retired age group triathlete, here to help you unlock your nutrition so that you can train harder, recover faster, and smash whatever goals it is that you want to try and achieve. Today, I wanted to dive into one of the most common questions I get from triathletes when it comes to fueling on their long training rides. So what real food can I eat on the bike? So if you've ever felt sick of gels and sports nutrition products by, hour 3 or more, or you've bonked mid-ride and crawled your way home feeling like an absolute zombie, or got the sag wagon, or really just struggled to find easy, portable options that actually work for long sessions, then this episode is for you. Fueling your long rides definitely doesn't have to be boring. It definitely doesn't have to be expensive, because holy Jesus, it is getting so expensive to fuel with some of the more common gel products and sports nutrition products on the market at the moment. It also doesn't need to be gut destroying, which so many people I know struggle with. There are lots of real food options that not only taste really good, but give you the fuel that you need to ride strong from start to finish. So I'm going to be sharing 5 of my go-to real food ideas, and including some practical tips to help you make them work in your training. Plus, I'm also going to give you a little sneak peek to my Fuel Your Adventure recipe book, which is packed with recipes designed exactly for this kind of thing. And if you want to take your nutrition to the next level, keep listening right to the end today, because I've got something exciting coming for you in July that you won't want to miss. Let's do it. Welcome to the Triathlon Nutrition Academy podcast, the secret weapon in your ears for triathletes who want to get fitter, faster, stronger, and healthier with evidence-based nutrition. Okay, welcome to today's episode, all about fueling long rides. So I'm talking about the 3, 4, 5+ hour sessions where fueling right can either make or break your day. So some really common issues I find with people on their long training rides are GI issues, whether that is just from the wrong foods or the wrong fueling target or just too many gels, which is very, very common. Getting sick of sweet sports nutrition products all the time, because we really don't have much in the way of savory options. So just that sweet overload that by the time you're out there for a long period of time, it just gets so horrible and your tongue gets manky and you just get horrific flavor fatigue. Feeling flat or bonking mid-ride is a huge one that a lot of people struggle with. And of course, being smashed for the whole rest of the day after a long training session or training ride specifically, where you are needing to nap it off or you're rendered useless and you can't function, you're stuck on the couch watching Netflix or reading books, or some people can't even keep their eyes open and just need a big nap. That is not particularly useful. It's not a very efficient use of our time. And if you experience any of those things, then it tells me that there's something wrong with your nutrition that you need to get fixed. So today's episode is very practical. It's evidence-based as always, because I'm an evidence-based practitioner, and I'm going to share some real food strategies from working with hundreds of triathletes over the last 2 decades. I'll also share a sneak peek into my Fuel Your Adventure recipe book to help you mix up your fueling game. Now, before we dive into my 5 real food ideas, I really wanted to zoom out quickly and understand why fueling long rides properly is so important. When we talk about long rides in triathlon, I'm specifically and typically referring to anything sort of 2 or 3 hours plus. Once you've hit that threshold, fueling becomes essential, and it's not something that is then optional. Now, why is that? That's because we have a fuel tank that only stores a certain amount of fuel. We store our carbohydrate or our fuel in our muscles and our liver as glycogen. Now, that is not infinite. It's not going to keep going forever. That fuel source can only last around 90 minutes if we are training at sort of moderately hard intensity exercise. If you're going slower, it'll last you longer. And if you're going harder, then it'll last you even less time than 90 minutes. But that's a rough ballpark based on the literature of some cyclists that ran at a set intensity. They hit the wall or bonked at about 88 minutes, actually, not quite 90. But everyone is different, and we burn different types of fuel at different intensities slightly differently. So you might be really reliant on carbohydrate at that intensity, whereas other people are much more easily able to use fat as a fuel source. So around 90 minutes is a ballpark. It's not an exact cutoff. It's not going to be like you get to 90 minutes in your ride and you're like, oh, that's it. It's all over Red Rover. I've hit the wall. I'm done. You might be able to go for longer than that, and you also might be able to go shorter than that. So just wanted to set that proviso, because one of the benefits of being a practitioner is I understand the research. I can apply that science to you as an individual, and then how do you actually do that practically? And I think that's a leap that a lot of the internet doesn't kind of make. So once your glycogen stores do start to run low, you'll experience that dreaded like bonk or hit in the wall sensation where your energy tank it's not empty, but it's definitely redlining. Your legs are going to feel like concrete and your brain gets foggy. You don't make good decisions. You get a bit tingly sometimes, a bit hazy. I say all of those things because I have done this myself. I'm sure if you've experienced it, also, you know exactly what it feels like, but it is not a good thing. It is where our ability to hold any kind of speed goes out the window. And while you are technically training and, riding in a low glycogen state, you are not actually performing to the best of your ability. And that might be okay in some training sessions, but if you're planning to race soon or you're building towards something, then that is definitely not what we want to achieve. And not many triathletes have much of an off season, to be honest. So you're probably racing sometime in the near future anyway. So we don't want to be doing that. It's also a horrible experience, and it's going to take you a long time to back up and recover again if that has happened, to top back up your glycogen fuel stores. And you've also compromised your immunity by doing that and your recovery. So you've definitely put yourself on the back foot if that is happening. And if it's happening regularly, then holy bejesus, you need to do something pretty rapidly to fix your nutrition, because that is not okay. If you consistently underfuel these sessions, you're going to have poorer training adaptations. You're going to feel exhausted and excessively fatigued in the multiple days following. And like I said just before, your immune system's compromised, your gut function is compromised, and your hormones are compromised as well. And all of that stuff is not good when we're training for 3 sports. So that's why you need to really strategically fuel your long sessions to train your gut, protect your body, and ensure your training is not just long, but also really high quality as well. And that's where real food can come into play. Because while sports products like gels and sports drinks are really useful, and we need to be using those things most often, it's really common to get sick of the sweet taste of them when we only have sweet products. There's a lot of products that are coming that are much more low flavor profile, which is helping. There's nothing really in the commercial sports product range that is kind of savory. You might also experience GI distress and upset from concentrated products after multiple hours on the bike. And that tells me that you're not using the right product for you, or it's the wrong amount, or you haven't mixed it properly, or all sorts of things. But something's not working if you're getting GI distress from concentrated products. Real food's also really good if you just want to mix things up, shake things up and change the taste, change the texture, and also, I guess, get the benefit of nutrients as well. But here's the catch. And the caveat to all of this is that not all real foods are created equal when it comes to the bike. We need options that are like easy to digest carbohydrate. We definitely want low fat, low fiber, low protein generally, because all those things slow down the digestive process. We don't want to be having too much of any of those things. And then the other thing to think about with the bike, which I affectionately call the rolling buffet, the portables that you take still need to be packaged or prepared in a way that is bike friendly. Okay, it's not going to fall apart in your jersey pocket, or you can't open it because your fingers aren't working and so it's bloody useless anyway, or it's melted and it's gone everywhere. There's lots of different things that we could use on the bike, but just logistically they're way too hard. So that is exactly the kind of thing that I work with my athletes inside the Triathlon Nutrition Academy. And I can teach you some of those things through resources like my Fuel Your Adventure recipe book, because it's not just about eating any food on the bike and crossing fingers and hoping for the best. It's about choosing the right real foods that are going to fuel you properly and help you perform in that session. That's the ultimate goal, right? So as a sports dietitian and triathlete myself, I see so many athletes making the same common mistakes in their long bike sessions and then wondering why they feel smashed and depleted for days afterwards. I did this myself. I used to do 100K rides, and if I had have known back then what I know now, I would have done my nutrition so differently compared to what I struggled with. I used to ride with the boys. They were way too fast for me, but it made me a better athlete. And there are so many things that I would love to go back and do to get the most out of sessions like that. So these mistakes I have done personally. I see them over and over and over again, even in experienced triathletes, and they can be really easily fixed if you know what to look for. So the first one is over-relying on sports nutrition products only. I've definitely seen a movement away from commercial sports nutrition products in the last 5 years or so, but then there's also a movement to them where people are using only liquid nutrition and having everything in one bottle as like a one-stop shop. And it's really easy to fall into the trap of thinking you have to fuel every long ride the same with your gels or your chews or your sports drinks or whatever. And while those products have their place, they're not the only option, and they can get pretty monotonous, which you will find after 4 hours or 5 hours of drinking the exact same thing. Now, some people do not care at all. They are totally fine with the same flavor, texture, whatever for hours on end. It's just like a means to the end, but other people really struggle with that. So I want you to just think more broadly around your fueling strategy. If something's not kind of feeling right, or if you're getting a bit sick of stuff, or you are rolling with a liquid only plan and you're getting to the hour 4 mark and you are just done with it, then I want you to rethink your whole strategy, because there are plenty of ways to skin a cat, so to speak, when it comes to fueling on the bike. Over time, if you're doing this stuff that's not really working for you, like obviously the longer you're out there for, the worse your digestive process is going to get. And if you're overfueling or underfueling, then GI issue is a major problem that we can overcome. It's not something you have to live with forever. Also, flavour fatigue is a big one, which I've mentioned. Just so much sweet that there's lots of tips and tricks that we can do to combat that and kind of shake things up so you're not getting so sick of it. And that GI issue, flavour fatigue stuff, all of that is generally more problematic the longer you go. So you need to make sure you're using the right sports nutrition products for you, the commercial ones, so that we're not building up like our bucket or our stomach with all of this fueling that's not actually going anywhere. The second mistake that I commonly see is choosing the wrong types of real food, which we're going to dive into today. So while we have athletes that swing the direction of only commercial sports products, gels, sports drinks, liquid only, that kind of stuff, there's athletes that swing the complete other end of the spectrum and only do real food, and that's it. And they try fueling all of their long training sessions, like riding and running, with options that aren't serving them particularly well. They're not designed for the demands of endurance training. So thinking things like really high fiber or nut dense bars, heavy trail mixes, or protein balls that don't have the right ingredients in them, things like that aren't going to digest very quickly and will honestly sit like a bit of a brick in your gut. And it's not until you're pushing the pedals for multiple hours that you probably start to feel the negative effects of having the wrong types of foods. You'll be able to get through the first few hours okay, but I'm talking long rides here. Hour 3, hour 4, hour 5, hour 6, all of that stuff. What you do in the early hours of your ride sets up the back end. And so the whole plan is really important, because long ride fueling is not about getting as much fat and protein in as you can. It's about easy to digest carbohydrates that are combating all of the gut issues and flavor fatigue things that can occur. Number 3 is not packaging your food properly, which leads to piss poor performance. I love a bit of alliteration, but you could have the perfect homemade snack or recipe or whatever it is. And if you haven't actually thought about how you're going to carry it or package it and those logistics from the bike, then you're probably going to struggle. Like sticky rice that just falls apart, or bars that just crumble and you take a bite and they disintegrate everywhere, or things that get soggy or melt when they've been out in your pocket for a long time with your body heat, or they might get rained on and water gets into your packaging and the whole thing's just a mess, or things that are just impossible to open when you're riding at 30 k's an hour because your fingers aren't working, or you've got, thick winter gloves on, you can't get into stuff with your teeth. So we need to make better decisions around foods that are portable and durable and easy to eat while you're moving when it comes to all sorts of things. Like commercial products are generally designed with that in mind. But if we're going to layer in some real foods, then we need to start to think about the practicalities of that too. Number 4 is forgetting about that flavor fatigue and variety and just sticking with the same thing all the time. One of the biggest complaints I hear from athletes is that they just get sick of sweet foods after multiple hours doing it. So introducing some savory options, changing textures, any of those sorts of tips and tricks that we talk about in TNA can make a massive difference and help you be more consistent with your fueling through those long rides, rather than not doing much and then trying to chase your tail and then really tapering off in the back end as well because your guts aren't feeling very good. So that is something that I always encourage my athletes to trial in training and well before race day as well, so that if they want to race with something that is not a commercial sports product, a gel or a sports drink or something like that, it's all well practiced and well rehearsed. It's not something new that we're trying on race day. I once had an Ironman athlete have a fully dialed in race nutrition plan, but then got distracted by older athletes and decided to grab a banana on the bike course. She'd never had bananas before in race simulation type scenarios, and it did not end well, unfortunately. And, her run was horrific. So anything that you're going to race with or randomly grab from an aid station because you might have a hankering for it, then you want to make sure you are definitely practicing that in training. And finally, the 5th kind of common mistake I see when it comes to this is not actually matching your fuel to the intensity or the duration of the ride. It's really important that you do that because not all long rides are created equally as well. And that is some of the problems with having a set target or fueling for, liquid only nutrition, is that this is your serves per hour and this is what it is. If you're doing a low intensity aerobic ride, your strategy for fueling is going to be different to a race pace simulation ride and session. So we need to be able to pull our levers for fueling rather than just blanketly having this one set plan that we do for all the things. Like, we need to be way smarter than that. So your early riding fuel might also look different to your back end riding fuel. You don't have to have the same thing going on for the whole ride, particularly if you're out there for 6 hours. So understanding how to periodize your fueling to the session is something that we deep dive into inside the Triathlon Nutrition Academy program. But I wanted to give you some quick tips today and some quick wins with some real food ideas that I'll share soon. So let's get into the fun part. My top 5 real food ideas for long rides. There are plenty more that you can go, but here are just 5 to get started so you're not overwhelmed. And if you want to implement something, you can go away and prosper and do that straight away this weekend. So all of these 5 options are easy to digest carbohydrates. They're going to be low in fat, low in fiber, low in protein, and tested by athletes on long rides. So they all actually feature with recipes and some prep tips inside my Fuel Your Adventure recipe book if you want to explore them in more detail. First up is an old school classic from the pro peloton, the rice cakes. They are light, they're easy to eat, and you can flavour them however you like, sweet or savoury. What I love about rice cakes is that they're basically just sticky rice bound together with a secret ingredient, giving you really fast absorbing, fast acting carbohydrates that aren't being blocked by much else to slow their digestion. They're perfect for long, steady state aerobic rides, and the recipe for how to make them is inside the Fuel Your Adventure recipe book. Number 2 is energy balls, and there are loads of flavor combinations and options that you can go here. This is one of my personal favorites and one of my athletes' favorites as well, because they're small, they're portable, they're easy to eat on the move, and they do honestly come in endless flavor variations. Inside the Fuel Your Adventure recipe book, I've included 8 different recipes to make with some of my favorite flavors like lemon. That would be my all-time fave. There's ginger, banana peanut butter, choc mint, like mocha. There are so many options in there. And they are the ultimate mid-ride snack, giving you a little boost of carbohydrate when you need to pick me up, but also something that feels like super tasty and super delicious as well. I have an athlete that does 24-hour mountain bike racing, and he uses these as his sole fueling strategy, plus another sports drink concoction that I helped him create. He's on the bike all day and all night, and so they're super easy to use when you're on the fly. My pro tip, though, if you make any of these, is to keep them like really bite-sized so that they're easy to chew and swallow pretty quickly, because no one wants to be wrestling with a giant bliss ball hurtling past at 30 k's an hour. Number 3 is my dietitian approved bike bar. So these are a homemade muesli bar or granola bar for the Americans. It isn't granola, but that kind of thing. It is my dietitian approved spin on a homemade muesli bar. So unlike commercial bars, you really need to be a bit of a food detective to understand what's in them, what they're made of, and what their nutrition information is, because a lot of them are far too high in protein, way too high in fat and fiber and other things that are not ideal for us when we're out there exercising for a long time. We want to make sure they're easy to eat carbohydrates. They're designed to sit well and not make your gut go crazy for hours on end on the bike. So I love my bike bars because you can easily make up a batch. You can freeze them if you want, and then they'll defrost when they're on your body and they're ready to pull out the night before or the morning of your next big ride. They work really well for mid-ride fueling. May not be the first hour, may not be the last hour, but somewhere thrown in the middle, giving you a bit of variety and a more solid texture that is going to keep your mouth happy and also your tummy from growling. Number 4, this one's not homemade, although you could make it yourself if you wanted to, is some fruit puree pouches. So think like kids' squeezy pouches, baby food type pouches. They are not just for kids. They can be a really easily digestible, fast-acting carbohydrate and mess-free option for on the bike. You can buy them off the shelf, or you can make your own blends at home, pureeing up apples, pears, tropical fruit, those sorts of things work well. And just buying from Amazon or somewhere online those reusable yogurt pouches that are relatively easy to come by. And they're also really easy to wash and keep clean as well. So keep in mind, though, that these pouches aren't that high in total carbohydrate. So I wouldn't be having a lot of them. You might need, one every couple of hours or something like that in addition to your main fuel. But they're a great option for people with sensitive guts or hotter conditions where anything too heavy or a lot of chewing maybe feels a bit unappealing. You can freeze them too so that they are cooler. Depends how long you're going for and how hot it is in your environmental conditions. All right, and our 5th and final real food idea is some high carb muffins. So not your standard cafe style raspberry and white choc chip gigantic muffin that's so heavy in fat and potentially fiber. I'm talking more sport specific muffins made with particular types of flours, good carbohydrate rich ingredients and minimal extras, so that we're making it a good, easy to digest option that feels delicious and a bit like a treat, but gives you that variety and is easy to eat on the go. So batch cook them up. You could freeze them. You could pack them up in small bite-sized portions rather than a big muffin tray. Go the little tiny baby ones and make lots. And we want to make sure that they've got the right ingredients in there so that they're not giving you that dry mouth. You know, sometimes when you chew a muffin or some sort of bakery item and it's really dry and you're trying to chew it and you're trying to breathe and like all the bits of crumbs and stuff are like going down your throat hole and it's just a disaster. So I want to make sure that they're not super dry and floury to prevent that, because it's not going to end well either. So I have a recipe in my Triathlete's Kitchen recipe database if you want to go and get it at dietitianapproved.com/recipes to get my sport-specific high-carb muffins. But they're perfect for like easy, long endurance rides to give you some different texture and different variety. And there's different flavour options there too, depending on which way you like to go. So there you have it. There are 5 real food ideas to spice up your next long training ride. There are plenty more, but those are 5 just to get you started. And if you want to try something new, I would encourage you to pick 1 or maybe 2 and go and test it out on your next long ride this weekend or whenever that might be. You might be surprised at how better your mouth feels and maybe how different your fueling feels with just one little tiny addition. But if you are listening and thinking that you are doing a mediocre job of your fueling and you're just kind of stuck in a rut and you do the same thing all the time and maybe you're bored but you didn't really realize you're bored, then go and shake it up with something different this weekend. And if you've been nodding along thinking, yep, I really need more ideas like this, I'd love some recipes, that's exactly why I created the Fuel Your Adventure recipe book. It is sports dietitian developed real food ideas for the long bike, for long trail runs and any sort of crazy ass endurance events that you might be facing. They are real food recipes that are portable, easy to make, easy to prep, easy to pack, and most importantly, as long as you're not intolerant to anything, should be easy on your gut. Just don't OD on them because they're so tasty. So you can grab a copy for yourself at dietitianapproved.com/fuel your adventure, and I'll pop the link in the show notes for you. And if you want to take this further, fueling long rides is just one piece of the puzzle. Inside the Triathlon Nutrition Academy, I teach you how to build your entire triathlon nutrition plan, personalizing your training nutrition, all of your race nutrition strategies, and reaching whatever goals you have set your mind to. Our next intake begins in July, but you can register your interest now and get access to some exclusive early bird bonuses by registering your interest on the list. So head to dietitianapproved.com/academy. I'll add that link to the show notes as well if you are interested in leveling up with me.